Fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part.
Hello, welcome back, and glad you guys get to tune in to the patch notes hotfix for the Yift Starties. Glad to see this finally come of age. We all complained for like a week. Now it's here. No more complaining to be had. You guys got what you wanted, right? This is what we wanted. I don't know. I think this could have rained out for a little bit longer. These cards were definitely good. Definitely needed some tweaking, but I wasn't completely dissatisfied yet. I could have probably endured another 3 days. Anyway, we're glad while we're here. Let's just read it up. Gonna dive right in, take a glance at these, and we're gonna kind of speculate on how this is going to impact Classic Ladder. We might touch on some comments about Skirmish, and generally how it's going to affect those formats. So, top of the list, Black Mane Revere. This card gained Camouflage and now boosts the drawn troop instead of reducing cost. So, this used to reduce the cost of a card by 1. Now it gains Camouflage, Ferocity, draw a troop, give it +1 melee, ranged, and health. Wow, that is a huge rip. This card still cycles. It's really good still. I still think this is going to see tons of play. Why would you not want to be cycling this out and buffing cards in your deck? It is basically just a cantrip. Cantrips are pretty strong. It may not see as much play as it did. It wasn't like every deck. There will probably be some lists that don't run this now. I still think this card's very useful, though. Man, that changed, though. No more cost reduction. Wow. That's steep. I thought they were going to change this to, like, cost cannot be reduced to less than 1. I have a feeling this card was mainly edited for Skirmish, because playing, you know, cycling and playing cards for free over and over again could probably be problematic. But yeah, I have a feeling that there's a lot of people out there that are super happy about seeing this troop get the hammer. Allows for what is possibly an insane tempo gain. Imagine you playing any of the 3-drops in Space Wolves, and you are cycling this card out, and it buffs a troop, and then instead of playing, like, you know, the 3-cost 3/3 with 4 health, it is now a 4/4 with 5 health. Insane tempo gain. Just gives you a little bit more board control. Definitely still really good. If anything, I would almost say this is somewhat better for Classic. Absurd. Just wow, no more infinite combo, I guess. Okay, cool. Neat to know. Alright. Next on our list, we have Death Wolf Scout. This troop's trigger on Ferocity now deals damage instead of reducing card costs. Wowzo. Camouflage. Whenever a friendly troop triggers Ferocity, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. Ooh, that's neat. This seems like this could really fit into the control Logan archetypes that I run into in Classic. I think this will have a pretty good impact. Obviously, the cost reduction is mainly geared towards the infinite combo in Skirmish. But for the most part, I think this is a very healthy, very welcomed change, and will slow down some of the aggressive pressure that Space Wolves decides to, or had the ability to put on you in Classic. They definitely had the ability to start getting reduced cops troops, and then it really was a snowballing, kind of overpowering lamented effect where you would just get compiling composite damage over and over and over again. Things would add up so quickly that it was hard to stabilize on a board state. Now I think that's definitely weakened, probably for the better, and I'm very glad for these cost reduction removals. Very, very glad. Next on the list, we have Lightning Bolt. Blood Claw. Should I just say Shock at this point? Damage lowered from 3 to 2. Changed description to Ferocity. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. Wow. Talk about, everybody looks at this and they'd be like, oh, it just got 1 less damage. No, this is huge. This card's still playable. You can compare this to the Necron card that does a similar thing. I think it's Extermination Protocol. You can compare this to that. It's very similar now. However, this does shuffle back into your deck or library. You get to run this multiple times. Let's take a glance at a legacy MTG list real quick. All right, so here we go, and we can see that there are several cards in this list that are deal 3 damage for 1 energy or 1 mana. However, nowhere in this list is a deal 2, and there are plenty of cards that do that in Magic. Not saying this card's bad by any means. It will probably still be a 2 of in every deck. However, that is huge. 3-2 is so massive. Shock is... it's so much. I wish I could put it in words for you guys, how much big of a change this is. Like, the amount of... the incidental additional damage you'll be receiving less from this is crazy. This will still find a home. Will still be ran. But man, I'm glad to see this get knocked down a peg. Definitely needed it. A recycling lightning bolt, probably a little bit OP for your card game. And finally, my favorite thing that happened this patch is Hunting Wolf. This ferocity ability can now only damage non-flying targets. You don't say. We're not just yeeting dogs into space? Aw, come on. They've got the strength to do it. I'm sure the Space Wolves just throw their hound pups into the wind and just take heal, Fido. It reminds me of that scene from Homeward Bound, where he's like, catapult, and the cat goes over the edge. Yeah, they were just yeeting dogs into the outer realm, you know. So good, yeah. This is the way it should have been. It should have never been the other way. Do some in-house testing. Honestly. It should have never operated the other way. It had no reason to. But it's the way it's worded. No, it's not. It is the way it's worded, sure, but that's not the way it should be, okay? It doesn't make sense. Melee attacks versus flying units from grounded troops is ridiculous. There's no reason for that. Fenrisian Wolf. This ferocity ability can now damage non-flying targets. Awesome. Tied to ferocity. Attack a non-flying enemy troop. It has hunt mark, game +2 melee. Awesome. Glad. Wolves no longer fly. They're not gathered up by cherubs and held into the sky and thrown at enemies. Okay, we're glad to see that. Wolfen Pack Leader. This ferocity ability now deals less damage. Change description. Pack. Ferocity. Deal 4 damage to a random enemy troop, or 7 if you control no other troops. So when I see this, you have to really think, how many times did this come into play and rail something and it didn't kill it? I mean, maybe in skirmish, probably a lot more common. It came into play and hit something and it didn't kill the target. 7 is still a lot of damage for 4 energy. I mean, when this thing comes down, it's coming down most likely on an empty board to resolve a problematic troop. This 7 damage still knocks out stuff that also comes down at 4. This kills the, I forget the name of the card, but I'll show it. The Necron troop with 2 armor, 5 attack, 0 ranged, and 5 health. The Vanguard troop, it'll kill that. It'll kill a buffed Astrid with a heal on it from Erica. This still knocks out the targets it wants to kill at 4 energy. It still one-shots whatever it's usually aiming at. But this will no longer murder like a late game drop, like an 8 or a 9 drop in skirmish, because I think that's more or less where this will have most of its effect. You're going to be running into situations in skirmish now where you're going to have to play, Shock or Bloodclaw and effectively Wolf and Pack Leader to remove 1 troop, whereas before you were just dropping Wolf and Pack Leader and dealing 10 to it. Needed. I don't know if it's going to hit as hard in Classic. Definitely still going to be ran. Card's still good. I just don't like the art on this card at all. It's awful. Another huge change. This one's nuts. Tiernak and Fenrir reduced or increased cost from 7 to 10. So this card in Classic was generally coming down on 4 energy, 5 energy, in that range. Maybe 5 or 6. And it was generally coming down in those. Sometimes it was saved for a late game threat in control matchups, or control archetype shell rather. This comes down a little bit later now. So you won't have to deal with the immense pressure. If you saw the last game I posted yesterday, the last game I posted in my video, I had to solve one of these for several turns. And now it comes down a little bit later, so the pressure's not going to be as adequate from the get-go. When this comes down, you're still going to have a hefty problem to deal with. This card's still really good. The fact it's tacked onto a Warlord is nuts. It's just probably well-deserved. Like I said, I felt like Space Wolves overall as a whole was kind of overtuned. And now I feel like they're still really good. I think if you were going to be grinding an archetype this season in playing one specific list after you grind out all your bonus points, I still think Space Wolves and probably Necrons, it looks like Necrons Up and Rising, because they counter Space Wolves so well, are going to be your go-to solutions. Maybe Sappho Uprising, maybe Varro Codex, if you're really looking to grind out those points. But no, Tyrnak and Fenrir, it took a little bit of a nerf. Logan's still, in my opinion, probably the best Warlord, and I still think this will see tons of play as the primary Warlord in the Control archetype shell. And lastly, we have Raid Tactics, increased cost from 3 to 4. This card does have an effect. In Classic, you do see it sometimes, and, you know, it's kind of annoying that you're constantly getting pinged from this card, but I mean, this is probably a fair thing. I think, again, this is one of those changes that was specifically made to appease skirmish players from the OTK decks and stuff like that. This with Blackmane Revere was like one of the primary combos where you could literally just shell your opponent out with an infinite trigger, playing Blood Claws over and over again. Yeah, I think this is mainly to slow down skirmish a little bit. The combo's still good. It's still going to be very efficient. However, it's no longer infinite, so there's that. But yeah, I think this will still see lots of play in skirmish as well as Classic. It will still be a definite include in a Ferocity archetype or Control type shell. However, I don't think that 4 energy is going to have much of a difference. You're still playing this in a late game or whenever you can afford to fit it into your curve in Classic. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact there. This was one of those changes definitely made for skirmish. All right, so how do I think this affects the faction as a whole? Prior to this patch notes, I've been playing Erica midrange / Control into the metagame, and I had a 65% win rate against the rest of the meta according to this small spreadsheet I keep talking about my own games. And against Space Wolves, I only had a 43% win rate. So I'm thinking this will probably boost it up to like maybe 48, if I had to say, maybe 49. I still think that's not a good matchup for Sisters. I still think a lot of decks are going to struggle with it. If you were having problems developing tempo, like Chaos, for example, or perhaps the decks that AM does not shell out and get a roll on. I think Tao's obviously going to struggle with this archetype still. Still, Space Wolves are going to be one of the dominant factions in ranked if you're grinding that. Still very, very good. Just some of these cards are going to highly impact the metagame. For the most part, I think these changes are very well welcomed. I'm surprised that the devs took such a... I don't know. They really took a interest in what the community was saying, and I guess we memed about it and complained about it hard enough that they really hopped on this hotfix. And I'm glad for the quick response, because an unhealthy metagame can lead to a lot of players not wanting to play the game, and after all, we are here to just enjoy and kind of settle into a game we like. So I think these are very, very welcomed. Definitely the cost reduction things are probably the hardest hitting. It's going to affect skirmish the most. Bloodclaw and Revere probably having the most impacts in Standard alongside the Tyrnak and Fenrir change. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm going to go out and grind Ranked right now. I've not touched it since the update. I'm very excited to see how the matchup changes for my games. And we'll have to see what tunes in. I'll try to keep you guys posted. You guys will definitely hear from me in my videos how I feel about this. But yeah, shout outs to the devs. Glad they listen to the community. Very nice. A lot of games don't actually have the tenacity to hear community feedback, so I'm glad that somebody complained hard enough that it got somebody's attention. So thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it, and I will see you guys tomorrow.